we're rarely taught that we can expand. We're rarely taught that expansion is even a viable way to go about growth and finances and love. We constantly look at, I want to get to this level. What is it that I need to sacrifice? What is it that I need to cut out? The other thing of this that's interesting to me is how men are typically taught and guided in how to gain access to power, how to gain power. And I can just ask you, do you want more power? Hello, hello, and welcome back to Euphoric Evolution. So excited to have you here today. We are diving into what is this one thing that is keeping you from making more money. And if you are a woman specifically, this is going to be potentially life changing. So if you're new here, my name is Makosi. I also go by the Royal Shaman, and I help incredible conscious change makers literally create seven-figure empires and fulfill their calling through quantum energetics as well as transformation of identity. Let's dive into why you're not making more money. I often go on walks, and I had this realization because I've been asking myself some questions that other people have asked, but I've been reflecting on them and going deeper. And one of those questions that I get often is, what was the turning point for me to be able to go from complete poverty, sometimes having no heat, struggling to figure out how we are going to eat, that kind of life, to now running a seven-figure plus business, working with other incredible entrepreneurs at all different stages, and now really stepping into more and more guiding others, especially women, to follow their calling and step into their leadership and really build empires. We have some ways of perceiving things that ultimately keep us from fulfilling our calling, but also from living to the highest of our potential. I was listening to a podcast episode by this author. I think her name is Elise Lonan or something like that. Oh my gosh, it just triggered so many things in my mind. So we're going to dive into that. This paradigm, this block that's keeping you from making more money is ultimately this program that women are here to be good, men are here to be powerful. Women are here to be good. It's like we're always trying to overcompensate or make up for the quote unquote sin that we apparently committed as per the Bible. In doing that, we are constantly trying to be good, whereas men are encouraged and taught to be powerful, to seek power. We've got to first think about or break down, what does it mean to be good? What do we think it means to be good? What are we constantly trying to do in order to be good, or not do in order to be good? There are many different perspectives on this. One of them pertains especially to motherhood, but just in general, we are taught to abandon our own standards, our own desires, our own needs as a sacrifice for others, for what others need in order to take care of everyone else and put ourselves last. In fact, even as children, right, we get praised as little girls for our ability to be quiet, to not cause disruption, to prioritize what makes other people feel comfortable, feel safe, feel good, and not rock the boat. Whether that is, with your parents, whether it's with your siblings, in your classrooms, right? Most of us are not encouraged to speak what's actually on our mind, to communicate what's true to us. and ultimately suppress and dampen ourselves. The other piece of this as well is we are programmed into restriction. I think about like the sheer number of articles that I've seen about, oh, if women want to, take care of their households financially, they need to cut out the Starbucks, as if somehow cutting out a $5 a day cup of coffee is going to make you millions of dollars. Can it? Sure. Is it going to probably take an entire lifetime? Yes. We're rarely taught that we can expand, right? We're rarely taught that expansion is even a viable way to go about growth and finances and love. We constantly look at, okay, I want to get to this level. What is it that I need to sacrifice? What is it that I need to cut out? The other thing of this that's interesting to me is how men are typically taught and guided in how to gain access to power, how to gain power. And well, I can just ask you, do you want more power? Sit with that for a second. Do you want more power? Pay attention to what automatically pops up. Most likely, what you immediately thought was, oh, absolutely not. I don't want power. I don't want power because we associate power to mean greed, domination, aggression, abuse, taking advantage of other people. So there are very few women who actually want power. I also fell into this category and I've had to work through it. So I took Sally Hogshead Fascination Advantage. It's an incredible test, by the way. But my primary advantage is power. My primary was power. My secondary is mystique. And if you know me at all, that probably makes sense. But power was a really difficult one for me to accept because as a woman, power is not something that we're usually able to claim. And it's usually like a dirty word to us. So I want to talk about and really invite you to explore what power is and how you can really reframe your relationship with power because your proximity to power is what will make you money. The more power that you proclaim, the more power that you accept and receive, the more money that you will make because money is a tool of power. Now, I mentioned some of the shadow aspects of power because let's be honest, we've experienced and seen many examples of power used in a way that is not to the benefit of all. It doesn't take others into itself. So much so that we associate power automatically with greed. So that brings up for us how much is enough, right? We're constantly thinking about, I just want enough money to have this existence where I get to be home with my kids or I get to take a vacation once a year and I can get my nails done and everything's great. For me, when I first started in entrepreneurship full time back in 2013, I just wanted to make like enough for me was I just wanted to make $500 a month. You see, I did all of the calculations at the time I was a manager at Target. I did all of the calculations and I figured out that after childcare and gas and clothing, I only needed to make $500 more and I would basically break even with my job as a manager at Target. This ultimately, as long as I could make $500 a month, it would allow for me to have my dream of being at home with my son. At the time, he was 1 year old, and I hated taking him to daycare every day. It was brutal. So for me, enough was $500 so that I could basically live the same existence. But now the question is not is quote unquote enough. It's turned into how much allows for me to take the absolute best care of myself and my family and also create the greatest impact. I got this term from my friend. I'm always looking for the ROI, the ripple of impact, not return on investment, but the ripple of impact. So I'm always looking at how can I receive enough, quote unquote, enough for the highest ROI, ripple of impact. And ultimately, it keeps expanding, right? It's not just oh, well, I allowed myself to make $100,000. That's quote unquote enough. You've got to expand the possibilities beyond yourself. At first, it's important to look at fulfilling your needs, taking care of yourself first. And then when that has happened, allowing yourself to explore, well, what would it look like if I was able to impact more people, impact others, impact my team, impact clients, speak on bigger stages, so on and so forth, and allow yourself the permission to do that. The second piece here is to really redefine power as responsibility. I have a chapter in my new book that will be coming out soon about hierarchy, and I really struggled with this chunk of the book because I've noticed a pattern in humanity that when we experience so much of the dark side of something, whether it be hierarchy or patriarchy or uh, whatever political spectrum, right? When we experience so much of the negative of it, we automatically put a label on it that it is quote unquote bad. And hierarchy is one of those things to the point that I see um, a lot of distortion around what hierarchy actually means. So we think of hierarchy to mean that one person at the top is the most important, most worthy, most valuable person. Then everybody below them is in like decreasing levels of value to the point the people at the quote unquote bottom are just peons or slaves. They have almost no value in this hierarchical structure. However, the original and ancient context of why hierarchy existed was that hierarchy was actually connected with responsibility. It wasn't that the person at the top was the most powerful and therefore the most valuable and the most important person. No, the entire intention of the structure was that the person at the top of that was responsible for all of those below. So this creates a shift in what leadership means. Leadership is not about just power, it is actually about responsibility and taking responsibility. What I've noticed when it comes to making money, the more responsibility that I take, the more money that I make. Write that down. The more responsibility that I take, the more money that I make. So for me, what that means is I'm not responsible completely for someone else's transformation. I can't cause that. However, I look at the world and look at, okay, what are the things that I can impact? What are the things that I can affect change in? And taking responsibility for that, not waiting for some other leader or some political party or, my husband or anything else outside of me to change that, but instead taking responsibility for that change in the world that I want to see. This is actual leadership, right? Where we are not just taking responsibility for ourselves, but also taking responsibility for the direction of humanity. The more that I find that I'm able to make more money and also create a greater ROI or ripple of impact, right? So shifting, I think, our perspective of hierarchy, because I see so many women who are called to leadership who have this funky distorted view of hierarchy because we've made hierarchy mean value instead of responsibility, and that keeps them from actually stepping up into their role and claiming that. The beauty is that part of why you make more money is because as you're taking responsibility for more people, you need more resources in the form of money, opportunities, connections, so on and so forth, in order to create the impact that you are called to create in this world. So you see how all of these things go hand in hand. I I feel so passionate about women stepping into leadership more and more, especially in business. I feel like entrepreneurship is such a great place because it has been statistically proven that women make better leaders because of our emotional intelligence, and men who are tapped into their yin or their feminine qualities, it brings them emotional intelligence and they are better leaders, right? But statistically, women are better with money. Yes, we have less of it right now. We are changing that, but we are better with money. We also tend to be more generous and philanthropic. We tend to make better investments. We don't get wrapped up as easily in ego driven endeavors that give you like those dopamine hits. And so you're just taking risks to look cool. In general, we tend to be better stewards of money. So part of this, at least the core of my message, is that I wanted more women stepping into leadership, um, embracing power, embracing leadership, embracing the responsibility, and understanding that when they open themselves up to receive abundance, that will allow for them to create and affect greater levels of change. With that, I will see you next week for more on money. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to be notified for next week's, and I will see you then.